Hello, my name is Jason McDonald, and I'm director at the JM Internet Group. Geotargeting is one of the most powerful things in AdWords. In this video, we're going to explain why you should geotarget and how you should geotarget for best effectiveness in Google AdWords. Let's get started. So what do they say? Location, location, location. So one of the most powerful features in AdWords is geotargeting, and we're going to go through and look at that in a little bit more detail so we understand how to correctly geotarget in AdWords. So here's our agenda. First, we're going to understand what is geotargeting. What do we mean by geotargeting? It's also called location targeting in AdWords. Secondly, we're going to look at why we would geotarget and look at some scenarios. We're going to look at simple geotargeting. It's sort of basic things that you do to geotarget. And then we're going to conclude by some advanced ideas on some ways you can use geotargeting to improve your AdWords and even to make your AdWords work better with your SEO, your search engine optimization. Okay, so let's get started with number one. What is geotargeting or location targeting in AdWords? I always start at the beginning here. So what does this mean? This means I'm going to target customers based on two different ideas. One idea is where they are. So for instance, use my example of cat boarding. So I use my kind of typical AdWords example. So I'm a cat boarder in San Francisco. So we board cats when the owners go on vacation. So a logical target is we want people who are living in San Francisco when they're typing their search. Secondly, let's say they work in Oakland across the bay from us, but they actually live in San Francisco. So they're in Oakland and they might type in the word San Francisco as in San Francisco cat boarding, and that's also part of geotargeting. So we want to understand our basic geotargeting. So we have two examples. So for instance, we're going to geotarget. We're going to set our keywords up in AdWords. We know how to set our keywords, and we're going to say, I want to target somebody who is physically in San Francisco, but just types in the word cat boarding, and I want them to see my ads. If they live in Tulsa, I don't want them to see my ad because I don't do cat boarding for people in Tulsa. Now, the other scenario, which is common, let's say they work in Oakland across the bay from us. They're going to be in Oakland. If they type in cat boarding, that I might want to let them see it there. But they might go, you know what? I'm looking for somebody at home, so they might type in cat boarding San Francisco. So I might want to get the keyword here when they target, when they type in a geographic keyword. So those are sort of the two basic scenarios. Now let's zig over to AdWords, and let's see where this is set in AdWords. So we're going to geotarget. We're going to use that as a way to define who our customers are. When we log into AdWords, we click New Campaign. We'll just click Search Network Only. Then scroll down and you'll see Locations. And you're going to see, here's where you put in your locations. And you can select how that works. Now, you can do location options. Okay, let's go in location options. Let me show you on a campaign that's already set up. They don't make this easy. So let's go to a campaign we've already set up. Let's go to the Settings tab. Let's go to Settings and Locations, and here's where it gets a little confusing. And you can see the location options is enabled. People in searching for a viewing page is about, okay? What is this meaning? This is where, if you click Edit, this is where they're making the distinction I just explained to you. So this would be people in San Francisco or people typing in the word San Francisco. So for most people, I do agree, just leave it alone, and it's going to get both of those issues, although technically those are distinct issues. Okay, so that is our first sort of point. Secondly, let's talk about why we geotarget. The most common reason is our customers exist only in a certain location. We are a cat boarding company. Our customers need to live in San Francisco. They're not going to drive from Tulsa to San Francisco to board their cat, so I don't want to show my ads to people that are in Tulsa or Omaha or Miami. I only want to show them in San Francisco. Okay, so that's our first scenario. and that's this scenario here. Okay, now let's talk about just basic, where do you set it up? So let's go to campaigns. Let's create a new campaign. Yes, I don't want to change them. Let's click New Campaign. Let's choose Google Only, and again in the class I explain why you want to do Google Only. Let's go down here to Locations. The best way to do it is let me choose Advanced Search, and then I like to just go here and you would type in San Francisco, California, and here's where you can target. You click Add, and it's going to show you on a map. You hit Done. So now my location is set to just people in San Francisco. This is the most common example. I just want to target people in a certain location. Now let's do some things that are a little bit more advanced. Let's click to Advanced Search, and let's say we want to target people within maybe 50 miles of San Francisco. So we can go here, click Radius Targeting, click San Francisco, California. Let's say you're a roofing company. This is very common. You can say 20 miles, and then that's going to be a map. It's going to be a circle 20 miles around a particular city. So that's what we call radius targeting. You can also target a zip code, 74135, my home zip code in Tulsa, and you can target a zip code. You can change this to 50 miles. And then you can hit Add. So this would be targeting 50 miles within the zip code 74135. And let's change it back to San Francisco. And let's go to cancel out of this. Let's go back to what we're talking about. Generally, just put in the city, San Francisco, and hit Add. Let's say you did San Francisco and you also did Oakland. You can type in Oakland and hit Add, and it's going to show up on the map. So you can do city by city, you can do zip codes. These are the simple ways to geo-target. So that's the most common use of geo-targeting. Now, simple geo-targeting, we need to get into some scenarios. So the first simple scenario is I want to target people in the city of San Francisco, or people who type in the word San Francisco with my other keywords, cat boarding, place to board cats, pet sitting, this type of thing. That's our simple scenario. Now let's talk about some advanced scenarios that we might want to get into. Now over in the instructor links, and I have all the links here for you, I've got a link. You can go to jm-seo.org/22, and that'll get you right to the instructor links. I have some interesting scenarios. You can click on scenario 1. So this shows you scenario 1 is our customers live only in San Francisco. So we're going to geo-target down to San Francisco, and we're done. Very simple scenario. Let's look at scenario number 2. Scenario number 2 is, I use this example of wine shipments. So scenario 2 is California business. We sell wine, and we do wine online. It's illegal to ship wine to Arkansas. There's a few states, 4 or 5 states, that don't allow interstate wine shipments. So what would I want to do here? I would want to geo-target the United States and exclude Arkansas. How do I do that? Go into AdWords, go to your advanced location. You can type in USA, hit Add. So now I've targeted all of USA, and then I can actually type in Arkansas, and I can hit Exclude. So now I've targeted the United States and I've excluded Arkansas. So that is this scenario, scenario 2. I'm targeting everywhere in the United States except Arkansas. So you could add the states. Oklahoma does also not allow it. So you could go back, go to Advanced Search, type in Oklahoma. There's about 5 states that don't allow it, the shipment of wine. So Oklahoma, and I can then add Oklahoma, hit Exclude. So now I've excluded Arkansas and Oklahoma, you can see on the map there. So that's a simple way to do it. Or you could do it this way. You could add state by state. You could add California. Maybe those are your best states. California, maybe you only ship to surrounding states. Add Nevada. So you can build out a little map. You can do this state by state, zip code by zip code, city by city. Very important way to do it. And you can add or exclude ones that you don't like. Let's say that people in Arkansas, no offense to people in Arkansas, but let's say they don't have as much income as people in Connecticut. and I target expensive items. So I can geo-target based on, yeah, I want to sell to people in Arkansas, but they're not as likely to buy my product. So I'll geo-target in and out. So you want to do your scenarios and get to where your customers live, where your customers do not live, and geo-target for that. That's your second scenario. What's your third scenario? This is an advanced scenario. Don't freak out here. It's a little complicated. What am I showing you here? This is an example of geo-targeting that I call a donut. So let's say we have great SEO and we show up well if you're in San Francisco and you type in the word catboarding, we show up for free on page 1. And we actually catboard across the whole Bay Area. We're so amazing with our catboarding. So what we can do is use geo-targeting to turn off our ad in our hometown, not because we don't want our hometown customers, but because we show up for free in those cities. I very much teach AdWords with the idea of what can I get for free through SEO and make AdWords build on top of that. But we don't show up in Marin County, Contra Costa County, Alameda County, San Mateo County. So what we can do is we build what I call a donut. We turn off our ad in San Francisco, we turn on our ad in the surrounding communities, and now our AdWords and our SEO are working together. So that's your third scenario. That's a donut strategy. Now, how would you do that donut strategy? You'd go into your campaign, get to your settings, get down to your locations. Let's remove these and let's sort of start over. You'd go into your advanced search, and you could put in here, let's put in San Francisco, and you can actually target the metro area, hit add, and then let's actually exclude the city of San Francisco. So we can exclude the city of San Francisco, and you can see there on your screen, I mean, it's not a circle, but it is a donut. So our ads are showing here, but not here. So you really want to start to think about the different scenarios. Where do your customers live? Where don't they live? Where can you ship line? Where can't you ship line? Where do you show up for free? Where don't you show up for free? Really understand your keywords and your search terms and how they interrelate with your geographics, and you can really use geo-targeting to really make your AdWords be very effective, built on top of an understanding. So again, how do you get to your geo-targeting? When you click on campaigns, let's go back to the beginning here. Let's go back to the beginning. So click on your new campaign. I recommend you start with a Google network. Go down to your locations. Here's where you do advanced search. Once you're running, you can do the other tweak, which isn't a big deal. So I recommend clicking on advanced search. You can do radius targeting. Once you put something in California, you can add it, and then don't forget you can remove something. Let's say you don't want to target Oakland. You hit exclude, and there you go. So you really want to play with your geo-targeting, and it is an amazing tool for making AdWords work for you. So if you're interested, the link actually is up there on the screen. So go to that link. There's more information there for you with respect to AdWords. And thank you so much for listening to this little escapade on how to use geo-targeting in AdWords.